Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Anna Marie. It has been a little over a week since I've posted. It's just been a very busy time, but I'm sure you guys understand, but I'm really excited to be back. I have got a book haul for you guys. These are books that I've gotten from several different places, trips to my local buy-sell bookstore, and then Barnes & Noble, and of course Book Outlet. I just go crazy on Book Outlet. I see all these books that I want to try and they're so inexpensive. So I go crazy a little bit. So I've got a lot of books to show you today. I think I counted and it's like 21-ish, so we'll see. But I have divided them up into age group. I have some adult fantasy, some young adult fantasy, some middle grade fantasy, a lot of fantasy. I have just regular adult contemporary sci-fi, that sort of thing. So I just kind of put that in a non-fantasy stack because that's the smallest stack I have. So we're gonna start with that one. The first one I wanna show you guys is A Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. And I'm really excited about this book because I am doing an independent reading kind of buddy read assignment with my students. And this is one of the nominations that they chose for their top 5. I let them nominate, books that they were interested in reading, and then we all voted and they got to a top 5, and this was the one with the most votes, and I'm really excited about this. Jason Reynolds is a very well-known up-and-coming author. He's written several books, and the one thing that I love telling my students about him is that he did not read a full book until the age of 16, I think it was, and now he's a well-known author, so it just gives them that sense of, well, even though I don't really like reading now, maybe one day it'll become a passion of mine, and that is just my hope as a teacher. So Long Way Down is written in verse. It's written in verse, which I can see that being one of the reasons that they chose this one, but I am still excited to read it because I've heard that it has such an impact on everyone who reads it, and I'm really excited about this. It's actually from the perspective of a young boy whose older brother was just shot, and he has decided that he is going to get revenge. So he goes up to his brother's apartment to get his gun, and on the way down, the elevator stops at every floor, and on every floor, someone gets on the elevator, and this is someone that he has known who has been killed, and they just talk to him on his way down, and at the end you don't know what he decides. And I love a book that kind of leaves a really big cliffhanger because I love when an author gives you the ability to kind of create your own ending for yourself. I just really love when a book ends that way, and I really think my students are gonna love this as well, so I'm excited to get into it. So the second book I picked up is Fredrik Backman's My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. I am a huge fan of Fredrik Backman. I've read A Man Called Uwe, and I am almost done with Beartown, which I'm going to do a review on because it has been such an incredible journey reading that book. I literally can't stop thinking about it, can't stop reading it. So anyway, I picked up this Fredrik Backman because it's one that I haven't read yet, and I have heard that it is endearing and adorable. So this book is from Elsa's perspective. She is a young girl who is just not like everybody else. She feels like she's very different from the norm. And her best friend is her 77-year-old grandmother, and they spend a lot of time together. The grandmother is described as being very eccentric, so they are just bonded by their differences. And when Elsa's grandmother passes away, she finds these letters that her grandmother wrote to all the people that she's wronged. And in these letters, she's apologizing. So Elsa takes it upon herself to find these people and deliver these letters. And I'm really excited to read this because I love books from a child's perspective, especially when they're having to overcome something or do something that's very difficult, because they have such an innocence when approaching these things that it changes my perspective when I have to do something that is unpleasant or difficult. So I'm really excited to read this, and I know Fredrik Backman, and his writing is just gonna blow me away because that's what he does every time. So I'm really excited for this. I also picked up a copy of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland because I have not read this before. I love the movies and I really just wanted to read it for myself. I read Peter Pan recently, so I've been trying to make my way through some children's classics, and this one was next, so I can't wait to get to it. So the next one I picked up is a sci-fi, and it is Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. I don't read a lot of sci-fi, but I've recently just really wanted to get into the genre more, and this is one that I've seen on so many booktube channels, and it sounds really interesting. This book is based on a young girl named Rose, and she is just riding her bike down the street on a normal day when she falls into a pit in the earth. And at the bottom, she finds that she is in a giant metal hand. And the book is based 17 years later when this mystery is still not solved, and they're trying to figure out what this hand is doing there, why it's there, and what it can do. Something very interesting about this book is it's written in a unique format. Some of the chapters are written in interview form. Some of them are written like a report. I'm really interested to see how this format changes the way that the story unfolds, and I can't wait to get into it. So the next one I picked up is actually a YA contemporary, which is not a genre that I read like ever. The reason that I don't read contemporary a lot is just because I don't really find myself interested in reading about the everyday life of someone, even if there's a little bit of drama. I like when my books are either set in a completely different world, or if I do read a contemporary, I want it to be about something that is moving and emotional and deep, and something that really examines the harder parts of being a human, which is why I think I love Frederick Bachman so much, because all of his books do that. And I've heard that this author writes a lot of contemporary that is about harder topics. So I picked up More Than We Can Tell by Bridget Kemmerer. Murphy Napier actually inspired me to start picking up her YA contemporary books, because Murphy is another one that does not really read a ton of contemporary, but she does like when books have deeper, moving topics, and that's similar to my taste as well. So I wanted to try and pick this up. And this is based on two teenagers, Rev and Emma, and they both have a lot going on in their lives. They both seem to have a very troubled past. Emma's parents fight constantly, and her only escape is playing this video game that she has created. And Rev, his is a past that's a little bit more mysterious, but we do know that he has a father and they are estranged, and he does get a letter from his father that brings up a lot of things from his past. Somehow they meet and they connect based on their family issues. I'm really hoping that this is the kind of book where they find strength and hope in each other because they have similar situations. So I will be interested to pick this up and see how it goes. Okay, and the last non-fantasy book that I picked up was Persuasion by Jane Austen. I absolutely love these editions. They are from Barnes & Noble, and I just find them to be gorgeous and beautiful. I have Pride and Prejudice in the same edition, which is one of my favorite Jane Austen novels ever. And Persuasion is not one that I have read. So I want to read as many Jane Austen novels as I can, and I really want to pick up Persuasion next. So I'm going to get into middle grade fantasy next, and I'm going to start with one that I found and I just wanted to pick it up because the author is so well known. A lot of people love his books, and I just wanted to see what his writing was like in a different age group. So I picked up The Ice Dragon by George R.R. Martin. I did not know that he had written anything in middle grade. But it's a very, very short book, so it wouldn't take any time at all to read. And it's just based on a young girl named Adara who has a connection with the ice dragon. And I've been really getting into middle grade fantasy, so I just thought I'd pick this up and see if I liked it. The next book that I picked up is a middle grade sci-fi. And honestly, I picked this up because I really like the colors in the cover. I'll just go ahead and show you. It's called Ignite the Stars by Mara Millen, and I really like the colors in the cover. I really like the colors, but this right here I do not like. I don't really love when there are realistic pictures of the characters in the cover, but I really like the colors. So anyway, this is a middle grade fantasy, and it is based on a girl named Aya Koka. I am pretty sure that's how you say it. But she is actually a very well-known criminal. So across the universe, she is known as this criminal mastermind, and no one knows her age or her gender, but they know that she is very talented at what she does. So she is working against this nation that destroyed her home when she was younger, and eventually she is captured by this nation's government, and she is exposed. Basically, her age and her gender are revealed, and people want to take advantage of her because of her talents. So she is held at that nation's military base and sent to training and school, but she has to figure out how to keep doing what she's doing and working against this nation even after her identity is exposed. So it just sounds really interesting, and I feel like this could be pretty tropey, but honestly, I like some of the young adult tropes, like the school setting and enemies to lovers. Some of those can be really fun to read, so I'm excited to get into this middle grade sci-fi. The next one I picked up is another middle grade fantasy, and that is The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. I'm really excited about this one. I've seen it on several booktube channels lately. I think How to Train Your Gavin was one of the ones that I saw this on his channel. But it is based on a village that every year sacrifices a child to the dark forest that surrounds them. And there is a witch that lives in this forest, and she is known to be evil and menacing, but really, when these children are sacrificed, she takes them in and blesses them with starlight magic, and then she sends them on to another village to basically be adopted by another family. So one year, she finds the child that was sacrificed, and instead of giving her starlight magic, she accidentally gives her moonlight magic, which for some reason gives her these incredible abilities and powers. And the witch decides to keep this child, who she names Luna, in the forest with her because of this magic that she possesses. And I know that there is a dragon in this one, and I'm really excited for that. And I love a good coming of age story with a little magic mixed in, so I'm excited to get to this. So the next one I picked up is also one that I saw on How to Train Your Gavin's channel, and I think he read this one for Polarthon. So when I saw it in the bookstore, I really wanted to pick it up, also because this edition of it is just really beautiful. It's got like a thick cover, and I just really love this edition. And this is Northchild by Edith Pateau. So this is based on a young girl named Rose, who, because she is a Northchild, she is cursed to die a terrible death. But Rose does not know that that is her fate. So she makes a bargain with a polar bear and is carried off to a mysterious castle. And from there, she goes on adventures and has to save a stranger. So I think this sounds really interesting. I just feel like it's full of magic and folklore and mystery, and I can't wait to get into this. So the next section I have is young adult fantasy, and the first one that I picked up is actually a young adult fantasy classic, basically. This trilogy is one that I know is beloved by a lot of booktubers. I've been very hesitant to start reading it because this is a modern fantasy, which I don't read a lot of, not because I don't like it, it's just something that I haven't ventured into that much. But that is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I know I am way behind the hype on this series, and I think that it might be something I like. It is, as far as I know, based on a young artist in Prague who is very different from her peers. She has a lot of mysterious attributes that she doesn't know the origin of, and she runs into as far as I know, it sounds like she runs into an angel or like a seraph, and they start to kind of uncover the mysterious aspects of both of their lives. So I just picked up the first one in this series. I want to see if it's something that I would be interested in, and if it's not, I'm okay with it. I have not read Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, but I also want to try that as well. So this next one I picked up, I have never seen on BookTube before. I've never even heard of this book before, but I have heard of the author. And this is Pathfinder by Orson Scott Card. So when I was in 8th grade, we had to read Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card, and I loved that book so much. So when I saw the name, I was like, okay, I did not realize he wrote fantasy too. So I picked it up and read the description, and it sounds really interesting. So it's based on a teenage boy named Riggs, and he has the power to see into people's pasts. And only one person knows this secret, and eventually he also finds out that not only can he see into the past, but he can have an effect on the past and change the past. And so I feel like he gets himself into a little bit of trouble and maybe has to go on an adventure to fix the problem. But I really like Orson Scott Card's writing, and I love fantasy, so I'm excited to try this out. So the next one I picked up is Rebel of the Stands by Alwyn Hamilton. First of all, I just really love this cover. It's got beautiful colors and it's just gorgeous. But second, this is a Middle Eastern fantasy, which I have seen so much more of lately. I'm really glad that we're starting to see different cultures in fantasy. It's always been kind of a medieval European setting, and I'm glad to see a little bit more diversity in there. This is based in a desert, and this desert is full of magic, some good, some not so good. There are jinn and beasts, and the protagonist of this book is a young girl who is a very talented shooter, but who really wants to leave this desert and find a way out. And she comes across a foreigner who competes against her in a shooting contest and finds that he might be her way out. I think this is really focused on the romance, which is not a bad thing. It's just kind of different from what my normal fantasies are. I haven't heard a lot on this, good or bad, but I have a feeling that this is one of those books that I'm going to pick up and very quickly realize that I either love it or hate it. So we'll see. So the next one I picked up is a newer young adult fantasy that I actually saw on JD Ray Reid's channel, and I think she really enjoyed the book when she read it, and that is Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw. And first of all, can I just say that this cover is beautiful, and if you take the dust jacket off, it looks like this. And I love when the naked covers of books have designs on them like this. I just think it's really beautiful because I read hardback books without the dust jacket because I don't want to mess it up. So I love when there's a little design on the front for when I'm reading it. But Winterwood is based on a family named the Walkers, and the females in this family have always been portrayed as witches. And the women in this family are rumored to have a strange and dark connection to the forest that they live in. But the protagonist of this story is a girl in the Walker family, and she stumbles upon a boy who has run away from the local camp for boys and finds him in the woods that she has a connection with. She has secrets of her own, and she finds that he has secrets, and I have a feeling that they're going to come out, and it's going to be interesting. So I'm excited to get into this. So the next one I picked up is one of my worst habits sometimes is buying books for a series that I haven't started yet, and it's a bad habit. But usually what I find is that if I start a series and I don't like it and I've gotten like the first couple books in the series, I'll just sell it back to my local bookstore and use my store credit. That's how I justify buying too many books in a series, because I sell them back and I use store credit to buy more. But I picked up Ember Queen by Laura Sebastian, and this is the third and final book in the series, the first being Ash Princess and then the second being Lady Smoke, and this is Ember Queen. And I have heard a lot of good things about this series, specifically Elliot Brooks. She raves about this series, and every time she mentions it, I'm like, this is the next book I'm going to pick up, and then I don't. But Ash Princess just became available on audiobook through my library, so I am literally picking it up today, and I'm really excited. But Ash Princess is based on Theodosia, who is a princess who has been kidnapped and held hostage by a neighboring kingdom. She has been tortured basically all of her life because they are using her to threaten the citizens of her country. I don't want to know too much about the plot because just that premise makes me really interested, and I can tell that this protagonist is going to be a really strong, formidable force, and I can just see her having to overcome a very, very dark upbringing. So I'm really excited to start listening to Ash Princess, and I will hopefully really like it because I have the second and the third books. So the next book that I picked up is part of Disney's A Twisted Tale series, and this is Reflection, which is based off of Mulan, and it's by Elizabeth Lim. And I love Mulan. It is a movie that I watched over and over as a child. I love the story. I love that she fights for her family and overcomes the gender stereotypes of her time. And I'm really excited to start reading this because it sounds like that Mulan has to travel into the underworld to save the captain of her regiment, Li Shang. And I have always loved Mulan's and Li Shang's relationship. Their friendship to begin with, and then something that turns into a little bit of a romance. So I'm really excited to see this different take on the Disney movie. So the next book, and this is the last in the YA fantasy section, is The Bird King by G. Willow Wilson. I am excited about this book for a lot of reasons. One, look at the cover. It's beautiful. I have a thing for gorgeous covers. I just can't help it. Second is this has a lot of historical references. It's actually based on events that happened, the Spanish Inquisition. And also it has a lot of Muslim religion and cultural influences. And that's just not something that you see a lot of today. The author is actually Muslim, and she won several awards for this book. The book is based on Fatima and Hassan. Fatima is a concubine in the royal court, and Hassan is a map maker who has the ability to create maps for places that he has never been and that don't exist. And when the Spanish come to visit her court, Fatima befriends one of these Spanish women, and unfortunately she does not realize that sharing Hassan's gift with these people will put them in a very dangerous position since the Spanish are trying to establish a Christian rule. So Hassan and Fatima find themselves having to escape, and they flee and find themselves on a mysterious island. And from then on, I don't really want to know too much more. There are so many blurbs in this book from well-known authors. Neil Gaiman, Lev Grossman, and Sabaa Tahir all have great things to say about the author and the book. So I'm really excited to try this one out. So the last couple of books are all adult fantasy. And the first is one I'm really excited about, and that is Brandon Sanderson's Elantris. And I am hoping to do the Cosmere Readathon with Catherine from Ex Catherine Reads. This is the first one that they are reading, and I think I have to read it by the end of March. I just finished Warbreaker, and I really want to do another Brandon Sanderson. I was going to pick up Skyward, but I think I might pick this one up instead. And I love a good Brandon Sanderson. The next one I picked up, I didn't even realize that this was a book he had written, but last week a friend and I were trying to figure out a movie to watch, and we came across a movie called Stardust, and I am obsessed with that movie. I have watched it twice since last week, and I plan on watching it again very soon, but I realized that it is Stardust by Neil Gaiman. And unfortunately, I have not read anything by Neil Gaiman, but I know he is very well known and very well loved. So I was so excited to figure out that he was actually the one who wrote Stardust, and that's what the movie was based on. So Stardust is based on a young boy named Tristan. He goes on a journey to bring back a fallen star for the girl that he loves, and he has to venture into this mysterious magical world that is just beyond the wall of his English country town. But when he goes, he finds that what he's looking for might not be what he expected. And I won't say more because it's just such an endearing story, and I'm really excited to read the book version. So the next two books are actually the first and second in a series, and the reason that I picked these up was that when I read the description, it sounded like the most unique fantasy concept and premise that I have heard in a very long time. So I've read a lot of fantasy, and sometimes the creatures and the characters and the tropes and the magic, sometimes they can feel so similar that it gets a little repetitive. So when I picked this up, I thought, wow, this sounds really unique. Those books are Updraft and Cloudbound by Fran Wilde. So it sounds like the people in this book have the ability to fly, and they live in a city in the sky. And when Kirit breaks one of the laws of their city, she is sent to the governing body, the court basically, and her punishment is that she must become one of the members of this governing body called the Singers. And it sounds like to train for this position, she has to give up her ability to fly. And instead, she has to train to be a member of this government, and she learns a lot of secrets about her government that kind of change the way she has seen her world. And it sounds like she discovers a lot of secrets about her world and her city and the laws of her government. This sounds like eventually it could become a rebellion against the government type story, which, I mean, just adding all of the unique magic and the world and the flying into it, it sounds like it's going to be really interesting. So I picked this one up, and also because I have a problem, I picked up Cloudbound. That's all the books I picked up in February. I am so excited to get into some of these books, and I will let you guys know how it goes. I'll see you next time. Bye.